Hello and welcome back to the When You're Podcast, the podcast for when you're doing anything. Today we're talking about when you're appreciating the sunset. There have been multiple moments where the sunset has just kind of been I don't want to say like a glowing. It's just been the final moment of the day where you can appreciate the sun. The final moment where you can kind of see that golden light half circle, and you know that the night is just about to come and you're gonna have to go to sleep and all of that stuff. But there's a lot of beautiful things about the sunset, but one of the important things, or one of the great things about watching the sunset, or taking a look at it, is it's free. It's a beautiful free activity. It's something that is just like, oh, you look outside and there it is. You know what I mean? Don't have to pay for it. You don't have to do anything to get it. You just got to appreciate it, and you just get that kind of a sight, no matter where you are. And it's different all around the world. You know what I mean? Some people get like living on the West Coast, you kind of get a better, more beautiful kind of a sunset, and I really love that. There's so many moments when I look at the sunset, and it just reminds me that the day is ending, and then it's gonna start over again. You know what I mean? It's not like that big of a deal, but I kind of think about it sometimes, and I focus on it, I ponder it, and I just go, yeah, it'll be back around, That's one of the other things, is we get it's free, so we don't take it in. We don't appreciate it as much as we do, mainly because, what's it called? We don't appreciate it as much because it's something that we're all so naturally like, oh yeah, I've seen the sunset before, I don't need to watch it again. You know what I mean? It's like, once you get used to it, it's like, it's not that big of a deal watching it anymore. But I think it is. I think it's a little bit of like appreciation for Earth. It's appreciation that we're still going, you know what I mean? That the sun is still there. There's a consistency in life, As long as that sun is there, we're gonna keep on keeping on, As long as we keep on working on ourselves and doing things that matter. I really feel like the imagery of the sunset, there are so many different perspectives. There are so many different people who watch the same sunset that I do, and they have like different takes on it, you know what I mean? Or they feel different ways about it, Sometimes people watch the sunset and it's like love, It's the first time it reminds them of like their first date, or maybe getting engaged or getting married. Maybe it reminds them of, I don't know. It reminds them of like their childhood. It reminds them of their parents and their brothers or sisters and everything else, And I imagine the reverse is true, you know what I mean? It could be a reflection of something a lot sadder, It could remind them of a funeral, remind them of, a tragedy that occurred at sunset, you know what I mean? And there's kind of that feeling of like, there's that thing that people kind of like fixate on or remember, which is like, what's it called? And then they rode off into the sunset, you know what I mean? It's like, it's happy times, it's good times, but then there's also the ones where it's like, and he alone rode off into the sunset, you know what I mean? So it's like, there's a loneliness, there's attached to the sunset. And there's also a happily ever after attached to the sunset. It's all about perspectives. This is nothing new, but I just kind of feel like there's an appreciation for that saying. There's an appreciation for the end of something, the end of sunlight. The sun is setting, and now we can all appreciate it together. We can all hold memories with it. And I can only imagine how, I often think about how in the old days, or like way before buildings and cities, like how they used to like farm and hunt stuff, and they just very early primitive days, and they had to work in the sunlight. That was their main thing. You know what I mean? Of course, they had fire. They could always work in fire, but it's always more dangerous at night. You know what I mean? Even if you have fire. But I guess my point is how I'm kind of thinking of it as like a cultural experience, or like a cultural gathering of like a community or a village or of people who come together. And then at the end of the day, they have to come by sunset, because if they go out any further, it'll be nighttime and it might get dangerous. You know what I mean? So like you have to group together at sunset, and you can all watch it. You can all appreciate it. You can all, love it, essentially, or you're all there to witness it together. And it doesn't really happen anymore, because everybody can just look out their windows or look out of their cars or step outside and look at it. It's not like a forced thing. Plus we have lights, so it doesn't really matter all that much. It's really an example of how technology, in a sense, takes away our appreciation for the wilderness, for nature. It takes away our, in a way, our roots, but not really. You know what I'm saying? It's like we take it in, but we're not grateful for it. So there's kind of, I don't know what the right word for it is, but there's a huge difference, or a big comparison, between watching the sunset on your phone or on the screen and then actually seeing the sunset. You know what I mean? Actually seeing the sun on, like, right there at the edge of the world. You know what I mean? And it's like half there, and then it's going down even more and more and more. I don't know. There's a little bit of... There's really a... what's it called? The sun setting is kind of an eventful thing. Except it's not, really. It's just kind of a everyday process that I feel... It's an everyday process that we take... I don't want to say take for granted. It's one of those things, those visual moments or visual everyday life things that's going to happen, and we don't take notice of it enough anymore, or we kind of... It becomes oversaturated maybe in our minds, because it's just like, it's just a sunset. It's just another sunset, or it's just the sunset, or I don't really care. I just want it to be nighttime. I want to see the moon, the stars. If it's not daylight, I'm not out there. You know what I mean? I don't know. And then some days we miss our chances to watch it because maybe we're inside doing something, and then before we know it, it's dark out. We're too much in our heads and not enough taking in our surroundings, taking in the environment. And I remember that they used to do these events for sunset. They had like this gathering for the sunset, and I thought it was so stupid because the sun setting is a free thing. I don't have to pay, or I don't have to meet other people to watch it, you know what I mean? And it was just kind of like, but it was a social gathering, you know what I mean? It was kind of like, hey, we all get together, we watch the sunset, and blah, 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 blah. And I couldn't fathom it. I was like, this is so stupid. Like, we could all just hang out together if we so chose for free. You know what I mean? and we could bring our own food and do our own thing and hang out with the people that we. It was just like it wasn't. It wasn't like we were getting together to meet new people or talk to new people or make new friends. Really, I mean that was definitely a possibility, but it wasn't why we were there. We were there because what's it called? We essentially were there to hang out with the friends we already made and watch the sunset, and I just felt like, why waste time watching the sunset for something that's free? You know what I mean? I'm not paying for the experience. I already know most of these people. I'm not paying for anything else. And then I guess I was really paying for the food because they were serving food there. I don't know. It felt really stupid to me, and I still think it's stupid, but what I'm trying to get at here is the sunset is like an eventful thing. It can be an important thing, but we don't appreciate it. And that's kind of my focus, is that like by appreciating it, we can highlight memories or take in moments and really think to ourselves that I'm connecting with this world, and I can be anywhere and the sun is going to set, and there's some sort of consistency in my life that I can take a look at, and I can have some fondness towards, you know. But then there's also the sky. The sky changes color. It looks like a painting. It's beautiful. It changes from yellow to maybe like a bright orange, reddish, pinkish, purple. You know, it definitely has that potential to change colors and make the sky and the clouds look like a dreamsicle or look like a fluffy little comforter of some kind. And when you look up into the sky and you see that blue sky kind of get hit with some orange, and you see the sky kind of change colors, and it's just kind of an example of like, well, tonight everything's gonna go dark, and you're not really gonna see this change of colors all that much. You know what I mean? You're never gonna see the blue sky change to orange and then to like a black night, you know, until the next day, of course. But I'm just saying that's an example. And every time I look up, well, not every time, but looking up at the sky during the sunset, looking at that view, looking at that bright sun, you can kind of take in the example, the life that we live in, which is, there could have been any number of circumstances of our existence. There could have been any kind of way you and I could live, and yet we live in this planet on this blue earth where we kind of see any number of things happen, you know. We get to have a blue sky. We get to have blue water. We get to have green grass. And, you know, you just appreciate all the things that Earth has. And it's, you know, that's available to us. And I constantly think to myself, like looking up into the sky during the sunset, and I tell myself that it's all going to change, and it changes pretty quickly. You know, the change happens. It's not like there's a designated time of like, they have it down to a science. They're like, this is the time where the sun is going to set. Like I looked it up how sometimes I was kind of like, man, when's it gonna get dark outside? And I looked it up on my phone. I was like, what time is sunset? And then it'll tell you the time that it'll be sunset, like officially. And there'll be like sunset will be at, I don't know, it can be from, let's just say there's like sunset will be at 7:45 p.m. and I'll be like, oh snap, that's crazy. And then within 15 minutes it'll be sunset, and then it'll be completely dark. It'll be nighttime already. And the change happened so fast, but by then everything is completely changed. By then everything is not what it used to be. The world was full of light and it was fresh and new and exciting, and there was so much possibility. And then the sun set, and you realized that the time was coming to a close. You realized the time was coming where you either find something, somewhere to snuggle up at night, or find some shelter, or build a camp, or whatever you were doing, and take in all of that. Take in the rest of your day with whatever you got by your side. I don't know. I think I'm just rambling at this point. I don't know what I'm trying to get at here. It's just about appreciating that last change of the day, The last change of the day between is the sun setting and, obviously the moon rising and the stars, and it gets dark out, and it's the last change of the day. And I think we don't appreciate it enough. And it's a good sign, really, of night becoming... The night is near, We got to get away because it's going to be nightfall soon, and we can't be out here at night because it's too dangerous. Or nighttime kind of... I think about this sometimes as like, if we had two suns, obviously we'd be overcooked. We'd be crazy. But I think, like, what if we had two suns, or if the sun was constantly surrounding us? And there are places on Earth where the sun kind of never goes away. Yeah, I don't remember the exact place. Maybe somewhere near Sweden. I don't remember if it was Sweden or some kind of northern country. Okay, I think I'll just say that. And in these places, the sun doesn't go away. Like the sun, I don't know if the sun sets or if the sun kind of like goes down a little bit. I don't remember, but what I do remember is that the sun doesn't go away. And I thought to myself, like, that is so cool for like people who maybe are like outdoorsmen. You know what I mean? Like, if you really love nature, or if you like being out there, and maybe if you're on a hunting thing, or if you're just out and about. But if you're one of those people who kind of... what I'm trying to get at here, if you're somebody like me, you're kind of like... It's kind of weird having sunlight all day, and you're just a little bit like, I can't... It would drive me crazy if it was sunlight all day, every time, I could adapt easily by going inside and closing the blinds, or like, finding a way to like block out the sun. But what I'm trying to get at here is there's something about nightfall, or about the sun setting, or about the end of the day coming to a close, that we push towards like the darkness of the night, and it becomes a habit to all of us of like, all right, it's getting time for bed, it's nighttime, we're gonna wake up in the morning and try to do whatever else we got to do. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Because of it, I feel if it was just sunlight all the time, we wouldn't be able to see changes. And maybe it takes that. Maybe it takes the sun being out all the time for me to really appreciate the changes that the earth goes through every single day. The things that I kind of don't always pay attention to, but I've been alive for 20 something years, and you look outside and you realize that you've had any number of, hundreds of sunsets, and you know that they happen, but you can't recall them day by day. You're like, I know a sunset happened, I just don't know if I was outside taking it in, or what day it was, what time, what time of the year it was, what I was really feeling, And I think people who are able to distinctly remember those kind of memories, distinctly remember, like, it was cold outside, so it was like in the winter time, and it was really cold, and da-da-da-da-da. People who can just, like, remember all of those, who can access those memories. And it could be about anything, So, I think that's kind of one of those moments you and I, or some other people, I don't want to put it on you, but I guess myself, don't take much. I don't consider the changing of the sun setting. Like, the sun is out, the sun is always constantly out. It's just on another part of the earth. But for me, when I think about it, I'm just kind of like, what is going on? What are we doing? What's going on in the world? And it's like the sun just went down, and it's nighttime, and the world is trying to go to sleep, but there are places where the day's just getting started. It's all about a constant cycle. And I think I'm just trying to focus on the end of it's not the end of the cycle, but it's a part of it. And it kind of becomes a moment in the day that you and I don't necessarily take in as much, But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just going out of my mind here. But then the sunset, you ever see people on, like, you ever see, like, those photos of people on, like, near a swamp or in the ocean, or, like, they live on a boat, or they have a boat, and they'll be out there on the ocean, and they'll see the sunset, and you can see the sparkle on the water, and you can kind of see, like, the sun setting, but then it kind of looks like a full sun because it's reflecting off of the water perfectly. You know what I'm talking about? Maybe not, but my point is that the sunset is also kind of like a calming, peaceful thing. Something to look at, something to relax and sit down and enjoy. And when I think about that, I think about living in the South in, like, I don't know, Louisiana, and it's really hot out, and you sit down on your front porch of your, like, old house or whatnot, and you look at the sunset. You have, like, a glass of water, some iced tea, lemonade iced tea or whatever, and you take a sip and you just look at the sunset. And that's really appreciating it. If nothing else, that's what my kind of definition of appreciating the sunset is. Just relaxing, taking it in, doing nothing other than just looking at it and being mesmerized by how beautiful it is, how beautiful our earth can be, how we can have attachments to it if we allow ourselves to, not just gloss over them. It's just a beautiful time to unwind and to relax, and for us to for you and I to take in what's around us and not take it for granted per se, not to let it waste what we're trying to do with our lives, you know. And that relaxation, it's peaceful. It's really peaceful. And then finally, I kind of feel like when I look at the sunset, I don't want to say I want to say it's kind of like half excited, half, you know, feeling of like, okay, it's like we're going to do this again, you know? Because I'm excited for the nighttime. I think nighttime is cool. I think it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of things that go on. You know what I was thinking of? I was thinking about like, does Bruce Wayne watch the sunset? Because I imagine that guy he stays up all night, and then maybe he stays up a little early in the morning, so that way he can do like some business stuff, you know, as Bruce Wayne or whatever. And then during the day, he just goes to sleep and then waits for the sun to go down. And then he kind of wakes up before the sun goes completely down at like sunset. And then he kind of gets up. So for him, I kind of was like, a guy like him, the sunset is the start of his day, really. It's the start of everything for him. You know, because once that sun goes down, he's ready to beat the, you know, mentally unstable people. And that just kind of was like, that is something that maybe even him, you know, as like a billionaire can appreciate, you know? And it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, or what happens in your life. We all can see the sunset. And sometimes we can have like a fondness for it. We can have an unpleasant memory attached to it. But we can all have something attached to the sunset, attached to nature, attached to the daily habits of the world. Ultimately, what this whole podcast, what this episode was about was appreciating the sunset and appreciating the last change of the day. The last change of daylight, really. Last change of what you and I would consider the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? And then lead us gracefully into the night. There's not too many things, or there are not too many things that I can point at and say that I know what that's like. You know, I don't know what it's like to watch the sunset in, let's say, Australia. But people in Australia are kind of like, well, I don't know what it's like to watch the sunset in California or at this place or that place, right? Like, there's this connection to it, but there are certain views that you would kill for. And that's kind of like an appreciation for the sunset. It's like, if I'm going to watch the sunset, I want it to be like in a beautiful location or in the best spot, or I want it to be a beautiful view, you know? I feel like that's kind of where we all don't take it in enough, is we're waiting for something more beautiful or more in awe to catch our eyes. But in reality, you can really appreciate it no matter where you are, and take it in and fully respect it and enjoy it and be at peace with it and make it an event and surround yourself with people and enjoy the freedom of, I get to see this every single day and it's beautiful, and all across the world people are looking at this sun, and we all know that it's kind of like an end to something, but it's gonna start over again and we can all try again, essentially. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Some could say I was watching the sunset today and I kind of was just like, wow, let me talk about this. But other people might say it's more of like a larger, discussion, but I guess it's not really. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening, and go appreciate the sunset, all right? Do it right now, unless it's already past the sunset. But I'm telling you, take it in, all right? So thank you guys so much for listening. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Thank you.